AMD's next generation Zen 5 desktop CPUs could be a much larger leap than what we saw with Zen 4. The Radeon RX 7900 XTX finally appears on Steam's hardware surveys, and the 4070 and 4070 Ti, despite being reviewed quite poorly, are actually selling quite well. All that and more to be discussed in this video. Hey, if you enjoy content like this, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and smash that bell so you never miss another video. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here, welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. Got a few topics to talk about for this one, and starting us off, I wanted to discuss how we finally have AMD's Radeon RX 7900 XTX show up on the Steam hardware survey. If you've ever taken a look at this data before, then what you'll have noticed is just how dominant Nvidia is when it comes to market share. The top 10 spots alone are all taken by Nvidia GPUs. Now, do keep in mind this list also includes integrated graphics as well, like laptop GPUs and Intel's iGPUs. AMD's most dominant discrete GPU is their RX 580, a card that was released back in 2017, and following that we have the RX 570 from the same generation. So that says a lot considering there have been many other mainstream AMD GPUs released since then. On the contrary, we have 30 series GPUs from Nvidia at the top of the list. Even the RTX 3080, which is by no means a mainstream GPU, has a higher market share than Polaris, which came out many years prior. You'll have noticed it didn't take too long for Nvidia's RTX 40 series to appear on this list. We actually discussed the appearance of the 4090 a few months back, and it was their most popular card from the series at the time. However, now it seems like things have changed, and it's the RTX 4070 Ti which has taken the lead from the RTX 4090. And that is a bit surprising to see because the RTX 4070 Ti was received pretty poorly by the tech press and many in the PC hardware community, as it really should be an RTX 4070, shouldn't have been more than $600, and it really should have come with 16GB of VRAM. Oh, and of course, a wider memory bus. Despite that, it seems to have sold fairly decently for Nvidia. When you take into considerations the alternatives that are in this price point, it starts to make a bit of sense as to why this happened. At the $800 price point, you could probably find a used 3090 Ti or perhaps a 3090 for cheaper, and it'll give you more VRAM with the wider bus. But I guess for most gamers, they didn't care about the extra 12GB of VRAM. They should have cared about the wider memory bus, but I guess the other reason was that they just didn't want to go used. Now, you could have bought an RX 7900 XT brand new, which not only gives you 20GB of VRAM, but also is faster on average when compared to the 4070 Ti, and has dropped considerably below $799 many times now. It's just that because of Nvidia's mindshare, PC gamers historically have always bought them over AMD when AMD was faster for cheaper. For me personally, I would have chosen the 7900 XT over the 4070 Ti if I was in that segment and looking for a card now. It seems like a no-brainer, but when you take into account the superior software support Nvidia has, then it's not as black and white as you'd think. Hence, now we see an imbalance in this list and the abysmal AMD GPU adoption. With that said, the RX 7900 XTX has finally appeared on this list, and it's near the bottom of the list with a 0.17% market share. Considering this card has been out for a while now, it did come out shortly after Nvidia's RTX 4080, comes in cheaper, and is about the same when it comes to rasterization, you'd think it'd be higher on the list, but it's nowhere near close to that because of some of the reasons I mentioned earlier. AMD just cannot compete in the high end against Nvidia. The only way they're going to attract buyers is if they're significantly faster for much cheaper, and they need to have an appealing software stack with some exclusive features you just can't get on the green side. Basically the same strategy they did with Zen 1, where Intel was charging $1,000 plus for an 8-core CPU, and here comes AMD storming in with a $300 8-core CPU. That is what it's going to take, an aggressive position. You can argue why they should do that when it's going to cut into their margins. They're a business and they need to maximize all that, but it's not like their current strategy is working for them now. Hence, we see some pretty drastic claims floating around where perhaps they might have actually cancelled their next-gen high-end GPUs to focus on the mainstream segment. Moving on, and shifting our focus away from the GPU market, there's been some murmurs and a bit of chit-chat surrounding Zen 5. Now, Zen 5 isn't going to be coming to market anytime soon. According to AMD's own roadmaps, Zen 5 is projected to hit the market sometime in Q3 or Q4 of 2024, and do keep in mind roadmaps, they can be subject to change, they can always fast track, or there could be some delays. I think they're going to keep consistent with their 1.5-ish year cycle that they have going on. I mean, Zen 4 has only just hit that 1 year mark. Now, speaking of Zen 4, followers of my channel know I wasn't too big on the initial lineup, but I did like the 7950X 3D and the 7800X 3D, and now that it's been a year, you can find some steep discounts on those non-X3D parts as well. But it turned out Zen 4 really wasn't that big of a leap when compared to the leap you got from, say, Zen 2 to Zen 3, and that was on the same socket and on the same node. The underwhelming performance improvement and the high platform costs definitely deterred a lot of people. Hence, we got X3D parts in the first quarter of 2023. Though AM5's adoption rate has been pretty low, and I think with Zen 5, AMD are going to have to release a generation that is an immense leap to entice consumers. Now, according to this rumor or leak, which comes from Bits and Chips, and they've leaked stuff in the past surrounding AMD Zen CPUs, here they mentioned that the same team which worked on Zen 1 is the same team that is working on Zen 5 right now. In the past decade, the biggest leap we saw in the CPU industry was when AMD released Zen 1. Now, to be fair, AMD had also taken a hiatus since Faildozer apart from releasing some new revisions and refreshes on newer nodes. But if you remember the presentation AMD held for their Financial Analyst Day late last year in June, one of the things mentioned when they brought up Zen 5 was that it's going to be a new microarchitecture with significant reworkings and overhauls to existing technologies. This means it's not going to be a simple revision that we've seen in the past or them bringing Zen 4 to a smaller or advanced node. They're touting this as a revolutionary change. Back in 2021, Ian Cuttress, who was working at AnandTech at the time, interviewed Mike Clark, AMD's chief architect of Zen. When talking about Zen 5, he said the following: "It's going to be great. I wish I could tell you all of what's coming. I have this annual architecture meeting where we go over everything that's going on, and at one of them, the team and I went through Zen 5. I learned a lot because of nowadays as running the roadmap, I don't get as close to the design as I wish I could. Coming out of that meeting, I just wanted to close my eyes, go to sleep, and then wake up and buy this thing. I want to be in the future. This thing is awesome, and it's going to be so great. I can't wait for it." The hard part of this business is knowing how long it takes to get what you have conceived to a point where you can build it to production. I don't think I've ever seen Lisa Su or Mark Papermaster talking like that about Zen 4 when it was on the way, so that is a bit promising to say the least. Then to add on to this recently, Red Gaming Tech in one of his recent videos shared some information pertaining to Ryzen 8000. In this video, he had some benchmark results from Cinebench R23 that came from various SKUs, and it looks like they're a pretty significant leap over the current gen Zen 4 CPUs. You can see the 12-core part nearly providing the same figures as what you'd get from a 7950X right now. And these are early engineering samples too, which could be running on lower clock speeds with lower power limits, etc. As for the single core result, it's mentioned that Zen 5 scores in the mid to high 2K range, which alludes to a pretty hefty jump there as well, quite possibly over 30% if that range is to be believed, as a 7950X, which has the highest single core boost out of the box when it comes to Zen 4, scores around 2000 or 2100 depending on your sample. Furthermore, he mentioned that Zen 5's leap will be even larger than what we saw compared to the jump we saw when we went from Zen 2 to Zen 3. So again, backing up what we talked about prior, where Zen 5 is going to be a major microarchitecture overhaul. This is great to hear, and I personally feel optimistic about Zen 5, and I think AMD really needs to hit a home run with this upcoming generation if they want to improve AM5 sales and adoption. Just take a look at the best-selling CPUs. People are still buying last generation Zen 3 CPUs because Zen 4 just doesn't offer them that performance leap that they're looking for, and the price to performance isn't that great. But if Zen 5 turns out to be around 35% faster over Zen 4, then hey, that is what it'll take me to finally retire this AM4 build I've been running for a while now, but until then, I'm going to be chilling with my 5900X. Another area where I'm hoping they focus on is with their memory controller. Right now, Intel is much farther than them when it comes to memory management and what kind of speeds they can get at lower gears. I know they've did that update where you can actually run 8,000 megatransfers on AM5, but you have to drop down to gear 4, which essentially mitigates the performance advancements you would get from running those higher speeds. But if they can get their Infinity Fabric to run much higher, 3K or a little bit more than that, if they can get their memory controller to also run at, say, Gear 2 when running 8,000 megatransfers or beyond, then that will be a pretty significant jump for them as well, and I think that will also immensely help gaming performance. Alright guys, that will do it for this one. We'll touch base in the next video. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.